It's been a while since I've posted a video. In fact, it's been over a year. And I wanted to share with you some life updates, some music updates, and just kind of explain to you what's been going on in case you're curious. I get a lot of comments along the lines of, where have you been, Joe? What's going on? Where are your videos? So in this video, I'm going to talk about 4 things. I'm going to talk about some life updates that have happened in my world, some music reflections and thoughts, and kind of where I've been at with my playing and composing and teaching and all of that. I'll talk a little bit about some health challenges that honestly I've been dealing with since I was a teenager and that have finally resolved somewhat. And I'll speak a little bit about 2025, the year ahead, and what you can expect from me. I hope you like this video. I don't always check the comments on YouTube, but for this video I will, because it's been a while and I'd like to reconnect with those of you who follow me. I very much appreciate that. So a lot has happened in the past year in my personal life. The biggest change is that I became a father. My son was born 14 months ago now, and it's been such an incredible experience seeing him go from being such a cute little newborn to the toddler he is now, pushing the envelope. And he was born at home here in Montana, and I actually caught him when he was born. It was really something I will never forget, and I'm filled with so much gratitude for my family. And it's just been such an incredible time, and I'm very grateful that I worked really, really hard during 2020, 2021, 2022 to build up my invisible technique guitar course suite, which has allowed me to not post a lot of videos, not have to go on the road and tour, and I can be home with my family, and that is something I'm really, really grateful for. So we moved to Montana about 2.5 years ago now. We bought a property that needed a lot of work, and it's been honestly a really wonderful, wholesome thing to fix up our property. We are dabbling in ranching, and we have, in fact, registered our ranch as an LLC. So we're getting really serious now. We're raising sheep and chickens and ducks, and we just bought a horse the other day. So I've been fixing up some shelters and fencing for the horse, and we're looking for another horse because you can't just have one horse. You got to have a companion for the horse. So all those changes in my personal life have been welcome, because I spent so long touring, living out of a suitcase, playing 200 concerts plus per year, based out of Nashville, which is where I lived from 2010 until 2021. I miss parts of being on the road and performing all the time, but the vast majority of that I'm very happy to not really be doing in this chapter of my life. I'm 33 now, and perhaps when I'm in my 40s, in my 50s, I will be touring again a lot like I used to. I look at my mentors and friends who have wonderful touring careers, and I think to myself, I could be doing that really at any age. There's no pressing need for me to tour right now, and it doesn't have a lot of appeal, especially with the way the world is. It just became so much more difficult to travel. It became so much more difficult to get flights and get rental cars, and the whole thing was just like, I don't really want to deal with it. I'd rather ride around on my horse up here 5,000 feet in the Rocky Mountains of Montana, hanging out with my son, hanging out with my wife, eating wonderful food. I have no complaints about that life, and I'm just super grateful that we've managed to build this lifestyle. One question that both my wife and I get a lot is, why Montana? And I'm not going to go into a whole diatribe of the different states in the US we considered and the reasoning, because a lot of it was just kind of like, it felt like the right move. But we definitely wanted to be in a more rural area. We wanted to be in an area with a great community, and the part of Montana we're in definitely has that. So we're very happy that we made that choice. We also wanted to be somewhere that was either kind of near the ocean or in the mountains, and the mountains is where we ended up. On our property, we have 360 degrees of mountain views, and there's a sense of space, there's a sense of calm. It's not too far from a reasonably major airport that's easy to get to the West Coast, to East Coast, and there are direct flights to Nashville, which is pretty amazing, really. I would say my least favorite thing about being a person who works in a recording studio a lot, recording music, recording videos, producing music, producing videos, is a lot of time spent sitting, and there's a lot of time spent staring at a computer screen. And the homesteading / ranching work is a welcome departure from that. It's very nice to be outside. It's nice to get a lot of sunshine, a lot of fresh air. It's nice to stand. It's nice to do things physical. I really enjoy framing up sheds and framing decks and doing fun things like that. I've learned a lot about construction since we purchased this house, because the house has needed a lot of work, and we've hired qualified personnel to do a lot of the work, of course, especially if it's the kind of work that doesn't allow for a lot of room for error, like tiling a bathroom or electrical work. But there's a lot of carpentry tasks that I've enjoyed doing myself. And one of the big construction projects that I undertook mostly this year was building myself a studio. With a newborn in the house, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to record as easily, so I wanted somewhere I could go and have a quiet place where I could make music and record videos and not be disturbing Genevieve or our son. Originally, I was going to turn our garage into a recording studio, and our garage is quite a large space, but I got a couple quotes from contractors on what that would cost, and I also spoke to a few real estate people who pretty clearly and unanimously communicated that in Montana, where there's a winter and snow, people like to have a garage that's attached to the house, even though we don't park our cars in it. But it just seemed like it wasn't a good move for the property to turn our garage into a livable space, a fully soundproofed recording studio. So what I did was I converted this little shed that was already on our property and that was in quite a dilapidated state into a really, really fantastic recording space. I did all the carpentry work myself. I ran electrical conduit from the electrical meter over by the house. I rented an excavator and dug the hole myself, and I had qualified electrical people install the cabling and whatnot. And I had a great time just reframing the whole thing, putting in really nice windows so I can see the mountains, and making sure it was thoroughly soundproofed. The entire structure has double drywall, and it's all floating on these hat channels so that the drywall doesn't touch the studs. So there's not a lot of sound transmission through the walls, because my main challenge with sound transmission here is wind. We live in a beautiful valley that gets a lot of wind. So if I'm recording delicate acoustic guitar tracks and it's blowing a gale outside, some of that sound will be heard in the microphones. But it's actually very soundproofed, and I'm really happy with what I'm able to create in here. I'll be doing a full studio tour very soon that'll be quite focused on gear and equipment, because I've totally redesigned all my equipment that I use for recording, because I have some musical projects that I'm very excited to dive into going into 2025. So even though I haven't posted in a year or so, I've been very busy. I have a community of guitar students that's hosted on my site, Invisible Technique, and it's quite an active community. People post videos, they ask me questions. I've enjoyed interacting primarily with my students rather than the broader general public. It's been nice to just kind of take a step back from that, reflect on it, because over the past 4 years, from 2020 onwards really, I grew my audience a lot. My live streams became very popular, and I enjoyed making a lot of new fans, but I felt a little hesitant to let everybody in on my personal life, especially once I bring other people into it, like my wife and our son. I don't feel I want to put our lives on display for the entire world. But I do feel a burning desire to share my music, which is a big passion of mine. I feel really fortunate that I hit a place financially where I didn't need to tour. I didn't need to post a video every week. I could comfortably take a step back from those things and really just focus on my students at Invisible Technique and enjoy being with my family. It's a huge luxury, and it's something that I don't take for granted. In making that happen, I feel I owe a lot to technology, the internet, the way in which I was able to automate so much of what I do in terms of finding new students, bringing them to my site. I don't use paid ads, but I have enough videos and enough reach and enough content out there that kind of does the work for me in funneling people into my courses. And I have such great feedback from my courses that those testimonials help bring in new students. I'm also grateful for Dave Ramsey. My wife and I listen to the Dave Ramsey Show. It's a podcast, and have for years. In fact, when we first started dating, we started listening to it. And he encourages people to live without debt. And I think as a creative person, that is so valuable. And it's definitely the philosophy that I feel aligns with my goals in my career, living a simple, clean life without the drama of having debt. It might mean that you go a little slower. It might mean that you have to kind of take your time doing something like building a studio. But for me, I feel there are so many benefits from operating this way. I'm really grateful for Dave and his baby steps plan for helping me go from having an absolute financial mess when I was touring all the time, when I had people on my payroll, to having a very clean, well-accounted, well-organized business side of what I do. I think in general, keeping things very simple, keeping things very well organized allows for more creativity, more productivity, and a higher level of quality in the work that I'm able to do. So as for my music, I have been practicing, I would say, a modest amount. I haven't been playing as much music as I might like, and that I think allows for me to play at my best level. I did a couple of experiments last year, actually, where I had a gig or two here and there, and it was at a time where I hadn't been playing at all. I asked myself, how much do I need to practice to go from 0 to 100 to get to a place where I can perform on stage and feel like there's no compromise? And that was about 1 week of playing for 60 to 90 minutes a day. So it doesn't take me that long to get back up to fighting shape, so to speak. But I haven't been playing as much music as I have in previous years, certainly. But that's been nice. It's been good and rejuvenating to take a step back from just trying to pump out arrangement after arrangement, song after song, recording after recording, video after video, because it's given me a chance to reflect. I also feel that moving away from Nashville has had a really positive effect on me creatively, because living in Nashville is living in the music business of that town, and it really clouds the way everybody operates. And I was getting a lot of calls to play sessions for people, to collaborate with people in various ways. And ultimately, I can look back and realize that a lot of that was simply a distraction from the work that I feel is most important, which is creating my own songs. I feel that this period of my 30s and my 40s is when I'm going to probably create my most important work. And so I want to really allow for myself to focus on that. I don't want to be pulled in 10,000 directions. I feel like the best work I've created has been in peace and quiet. I used to love walking up the back of our property in Temagog, playing for the cows. I used to play for the cows for hours. I'd have a maiden strapped on my back. And that was how I composed a lot of my most popular songs, was playing outdoors, playing in nature. And in Montana, I really feel like I've found that. Another thing I've learned is that I really benefit from having a place to play and practice when nobody can hear me. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I started taking piano lessons, and I really didn't enjoy it. And as I look back, I think a big part of the reason I didn't enjoy it is because the piano was in the middle of the living room, and I'd be playing, and my brothers and sisters would be making their breakfast or eating breakfast, and I'd be doing my scales and my exercises and songs. And I didn't like that everyone could hear me when I was practicing. I love performing, and I love it when people listen to me when I play. But when I'm practicing, there's a certain level of self-consciousness that's there when you're playing something new, when you're playing something that you're still learning. And when Genevieve and I got married, we had both our studios in the house, and we'd have to kind of coordinate when she was going to film and record something, because she teaches illustration on YouTube and has her own courses, and she's incredible. And I was also creating a lot of content, especially during the first year we were married. And we had to kind of just navigate that. And I realized that if I was playing a song and practicing it, it would kind of drive her a little bit crazy, because if I was playing a song that she liked and she heard me play it 10,000 times really slowly, painstakingly with the metronome, it kind of ruins the song for you. And I have an awareness of that, and it just was difficult for me to practice, and it's difficult for her. It was difficult on every level. So for me, building this studio really has given me the freedom to create whatever I want with no one in earshot, and I think that that's a really important thing for me personally. I'm not saying everyone's like that, but for me it makes a huge difference in how and what I create. I haven't really talked publicly about some of these health challenges I'm going to discuss with you now, but I'd like to. I have been dealing with some autoimmune problems since I was a teenager, and I'll kind of start at the beginning and then work up to now, because I've managed to resolve them through diet and sunshine, really. Some of the issues were affecting my playing. I had psoriatic arthritis in my right knuckle, which is resolved, and there's been no permanent damage. I got the confirmation from an MRI. Actually, the results came in this morning. So I'm very happy about that from my rheumatologist. So when I was 14 or 15, I recorded my first album, Birdseed, and it was quite a stressful recording experience. It was playing the same song over and over again for like 12 hours plus a day, and I wasn't as good as I thought I was, and the producer really pushed me to get great performances, which I'm grateful for. But for whatever reason, I developed psoriasis and had a pretty bad case of it, and that was like the first time I really had to deal with that. And of course, you go to like a normal doctor, and they did run a test, and I have a blood marker called HLA-B27, which makes me more susceptible to things like psoriasis, ankylosing spondylitis, psoriatic arthritis, and iritis. There are others, I'm sure, but those are the main ones that I've been kind of monitored for and have dealt with to different degrees. And so sometimes the standard doctor would prescribe you steroid creams for something like psoriasis, and I kind of dealt with it in those early teenage years. When I came to Nashville, I was 17, 18, about that age, and I was just eating whatever food I found in Nashville, like fast food, all kinds of crap. As many of you are aware, I'm sure it's no surprise that the food in America is potentially very toxic. America's a land of extremes. There's really great food here, but there's also really toxic food. And I was eating a lot of junk, and I developed psoriasis almost over my entire body. My entire trunk was just like this plaque psoriasis. It was really, really pretty intense looking. So my manager at the time said, why don't you go see a more holistic type doctor? And so I went to a functional medicine doctor, and they said, why don't you try this 30-day detox, like a cleanse, basically cut out dairy, cut out red meat, cut out sugar, caffeine, this long list of things that I cut out. I basically ate greens and fish, and it was just a really simple diet. And within 5 or 6 days, it was less than a week, it completely disappeared. And so I realized that the normal doctors who would give me steroid cream to fix it weren't really addressing the root cause, which was there was something in my diet that was triggering this immune response, some kind of gut issue. Anyway, I learned my lesson, which was that food really affects my body. I'm not saying everyone's like this, but for me, I'm very sensitive to eating crap. So I figured out what kind of foods worked for me, and the foods that seemed to trigger the autoimmune issues were sugar and processed foods. I had iritis flare up, so in my right eye it would turn bright red basically, and it would take 6 weeks of steroid drops for it to go back down to looking normal. And during that time, it would be incredibly painful to be exposed to any light. And this happened when I was on tour a few times, and eventually I learned to feel it. I learned to know when it was coming on, and I could treat it earlier, which would result in me having to use less of the steroid drops, and it wouldn't get quite as bad. It wouldn't take as long to heal, it wouldn't be as painful. So I learned how to navigate that, but it was recurring iritis that happened many times. A couple years ago, I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, which I was really disappointed with, being a guitar player, especially one with the technical skill that I do have. I was concerned it would limit my technique. I was assured that it wasn't from playing the guitar. It wasn't from any kind of mechanical action. It was caused by an autoimmune reaction my body was having. And I felt like I'd really dialed in my diet and managed all my other autoimmune problems well. But this one just kind of flared up and was difficult to get rid of. So I'll share with you what I did and how I fixed it. I took a drug that was prescribed by my doctor, not by my rheumatologist. It was just my general doctor, who's great. It's really such an asset having a doctor who you like and who you trust and who's earned your trust, who's patient with you, takes the time. Often in the US, you have to find like not a mainstream doctor, because a lot of the mainstream doctors take 15 minutes per patient, and you can't really figure out how to treat the root cause of something like an autoimmune illness in that short amount of time, in my experience. So I have a great functional type doctor, and he prescribed me low-dose naltrexone, LDN, which I took for 6 months. It's a very impressive treatment that works for a lot of different conditions. There's a website called LDN Research Trust where you can learn more about that if you want. Of course, I'm not a medical professional. I'm an expert on my opinion, but that's about it. So I took this drug for about 6 months, and it really helped regulate my immune system. I felt instantly it had my knuckle improved, and some skin psoriasis and things cleared up. So I continued to tweak my diet, and most importantly, I think I got a lot of sunshine, a lot of exercise, a lot of fresh air. I spent basically a year working outside on our property, doing ranch type jobs, like putting in fence posts, fencing, building sheds, moving our chickens around, slaughtering our chickens, all kinds of good, wholesome outdoor activities. And I feel like that really, really helped. For me, diet is key, and I eat things like sauerkraut almost every meal for the probiotic qualities. We source really high quality meat from local ranchers, beef, lamb, and we slaughter our own chickens that we raise on our own pasture. And getting that really high quality food from trusted sources has been a big part of my healing journey, as well as raw milk. I drink 2 gallons of raw milk a week from Jersey cows. It's A2 milk, and I've been drinking raw milk for about 6 or 7 years now. I had a supplier in Nashville who I used to buy milk from, and now we found a great supplier here. And that really has helped me dealing with my autoimmune problems. I wouldn't buy raw milk from a supermarket pretty much under any circumstance. I feel like you have to know the farmer that you're buying it from. You have to trust them. And in all these years of drinking 2 to 3 gallons per week, I've had no issues with raw milk at all. So the latest update is I got an MRI back this morning from my pelvis and my knuckle, monitoring me for ankylosing spondylitis as well as checking my psoriatic arthritis. There's no current inflammation and there's been no joint damage. So that's great news, and I'm really grateful that I managed to get that under control. I do feel like it's something I'll always have to be aware of with my own body. And of course, having a wholesome, low-stress lifestyle helps with these kind of problems. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you. I appreciate that you're interested in what I've been up to. I appreciate that you follow me. That really means a lot. So thank you very much. Going forward in 2025, I'm really excited about creating some new music and releasing some new music. I'm thinking I'm going to release a lot of single songs because I don't feel very compelled to take 6 months to get an album finished and then release the album and then take another 6 months or a year or longer to do another album. I feel like that's just a model that doesn't really satisfy fans of a musician, as well as just doesn't satisfy me as a creator. I like the idea of releasing a song at a time, getting feedback, and not having this huge workload of 8 or 10 songs to finish at once. It's nice to just kind of go for one song at a time. There's an author who I've really learned a lot from over the years, and his name is Newport. He has quite a few books that contain ideas that I think about a lot and have influenced me a lot. He has a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You, where he speaks about not following your passion, but becoming a craftsman and providing work that is of such a quality and such a refined nature that people find value in it. And that's a more direct path to having a satisfying career than following your passion, which is kind of like trying to get other people to like what you like. Anyway, he speaks about an idea called lifestyle-centric planning, which is basically thinking about the kind of lifestyle you want and then working towards that. And for me, the goal was always to have a simple setup where I can create and make music and play it for people. Like, sharing music for people is a big part of the appeal of being a musician for me. So what we're building here in Montana is very much a lifestyle-centric approach to the kind of career I want to have as a musician and as a creative person. As a teacher, I have a lot of students, and I feel very grateful for that, because not all of my friends who are great musicians have a student base, and I have enjoyed creating all the video lessons I've created. I've created thousands of them now, thousands of teaching videos, certainly over 2,000 to 3,000. On one hand, I feel like I've said a lot of what I want to say, but on the other hand, I have other courses that I think make sense for me in terms of presenting a comprehensive curriculum. That's really my goal with Invisible Technique, is to provide a really comprehensive curriculum of the way I like to approach things like fingerstyle guitar, things like improvising and theory on the guitar, understanding the fretboard. I like creating a simple path for people to follow. It's certainly a challenge to not just go over people's heads and say, okay, this is what I do, good luck. To really take my time and break it down for people so that anyone can follow along if you are prepared to take your time and go through one lesson at a time. It's a really step-by-step methodology. But teaching is not the center of what I do. I never set out to be a teacher. I set out to be a performer. I've always enjoyed performing. I haven't always enjoyed teaching. So going forward in 2025, my focus is really going to be on creating new music. It's not going to be on making free lessons on YouTube. It's not going to be on creating more courses at Invisible Technique, although I do have two 2-ish courses that I plan on creating in 2025. For me to create a course, it takes weeks. It takes like 6 weeks of working every day, editing large numbers of videos, long videos. Anyone who's been through any of my courses can appreciate, I'm sure, how much work goes into those programs. But my goal is to release a steady stream of songs. So if you subscribe to me on YouTube or you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, then you'll hear the songs and you'll see me posting them. But if you want to hear the songs before anyone else, then follow me on Spotify, follow me on Apple Music, follow me on the music streaming platforms, because those platforms are going to be really my primary distribution going ahead. And I'll be using all the social media channels to promote my music, my songs, my original music. I'm not going to be necessarily focusing on covers, although covers do very well on YouTube because people like to click on a song that they're familiar with. They don't always express interest in hearing a new song from an original artist. And frankly, a lot of my friends who are guitar creators on YouTube, a lot of the most popular guitar creators, they don't write songs. Hardly anybody does. So it's something that I want to make sure I give the attention that it deserves. Composing and creating songs is something that has always been right at the core of my desire to express my music. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions for me. I really appreciate that you've followed me and supported me. I appreciate anybody who's purchased one of my guitar courses at Invisible Technique. That helps more than you know. And I am certainly grateful for my Invisible Technique coaching community, which are my most engaged group of course students. The community opens, for anyone wondering, in January and August. And in 2025, it's going to open in January. It's going to open in August. You can't join at any other time in the year. So go to invisibletechnique.com, click on the coaching community, and join the wait list if you'd like to be notified when that opens. I don't have time to service thousands of students in this community. I want it to be a close-knit group of people. And so far, it's been a really nice balance of enough people so that there's a lot of engagement, but not too many that it's just a mess and that I can't keep up with it. If I reflect on the things that I've done over the last few years that have allowed me to become successful in terms of having a profitable career as a musician, which is a harder undertaking than many people realize. I think a big part of it is certainly the fact that I committed so much energy to mastering the guitar to the best of my ability, but it's also from becoming competent at recording, becoming confident at video production and video editing. Lately, there's been a lot more skills that I've added to this skill stack, from understanding how to raise animals, understanding how to build things, understanding regenerative agriculture. Right now, I'm not sure how those things are going to play into my career, but they certainly play into the lifestyle that I'm very grateful to be building with my beautiful family. And I just wanted to make a video to share with you kind of what's going on in my world. And thank you very much for watching. Thanks very much for following. Take care, and I'll see you with some new music really soon.